Christmas Eve. I'm standing on my parents' porch in the snow, with only my handbag, no coat, no warning, no goodbye. Through the gap in the door, my mother delivers the line she's said my whole life. You can't do a single thing by yourself, Megan. You're desperate. Behind her, my brother pulls the curtains shut in my old room. The lock snaps. I'm 33, an ER nurse with a steady job, and my family has just thrown me out like rubbish. The next morning, I dig a faded debit card my grandpa gave me at 18 out of my wallet, praying it holds bus fare. At the credit union, the manager swipes it, stares at her screen, and goes white. "Miss, please sit down," she whispers. "You need to see this." By the time I leave that bank, the people who called me helpless are about to learn who is really leaning on whom. Welcome to Tranquil Drama Stories. If you've ever been labeled worthless by the very people quietly draining you, stay right here, because what that screen showed changes everything. Let me rewind to what really happened, not the version my mother tells. 3 months earlier, I took an ER nursing job in my hometown. My apartment wouldn't be ready until February, so I asked to stay in my childhood bedroom for 8 weeks. That's the huge shame. A full-time working woman saving for a deposit. I fix crises without making them about me. It's the job, but never asking for help turned me invisible. And invisible people get stolen from. I didn't know that yet. I just knew I was being treated like a burden. And the real reason was already sitting inside a bank computer. The emotional climate in that house revolved around my brother Jake, 4 years younger. Premature, struggled in school, lost jobs. Every setback became proof he needed protecting. Meanwhile, I handled my own problems silently, which somehow meant I didn't need anyone. "Megan's fine. Megan takes care of herself," my mother would say, clearing a path for Jake while waving me off. During those weeks, I saw it up close. Jake, unemployed again, getting car payments covered and cash slipped across the dinner table. Me, the working nurse, reminded I was lucky to have a roof. Once I offered grocery money, my mother patted my hand and said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. You can't do anything on your own anyway." I let it go. As always, letting things go is a habit, and thieves rely on it. The faded card in my purse belonged to my grandfather, my mother's father, Ben Hartley, Pop Ben. He died 6 years earlier, but on my high school graduation day, he took me for pie and handed me a debit card linked to an account in my name. "For when you need to stand on your own feet," he said, then scribbled something on a napkin, folded it, and tucked it behind the card. "Read it the day you need it. And Megan, don't tell your mother about this account. She'll spend it." I laughed and forgot the napkin. I used the account a little in college, then almost never. The card went soft and faded in my wallet, a relic. I had no idea I was carrying a loaded safety net, and a prophecy folded into a square. When Pop Ben died, my mother managed everything. She held power of attorney, then handled the estate. At his funeral, I asked gently if he'd left any small keepsake. She looked me in the eye and said, "Oh honey, your grandpa didn't have much at the end. There really wasn't anything left. Don't get your hopes up about an inheritance." I believed her. Of course I did. That single sentence became a locked door, and it held for 6 years. Back in that house, I started noticing money that didn't add up. Jake didn't work, yet a newer truck appeared. Debts dissolved. There was a vacation, an apartment deposit, a pricey watch. I'm an ER nurse. I'm trained to spot when the story doesn't match the chart. One evening, I asked lightly, "Where's Jake getting the money?" My mother's face flickered, then her mask returned. "That's family business, Megan. It's being handled." I filed away the truck, the watch, the flicker. I'd connect them all soon. In a bank chair, watching a stranger turn pale. In early December, my mother announced that Jake and his fiancée were moving into my room. "It just makes more sense. You're so independent, you'll land on your feet anywhere." My confidence had been weaponized again. Jake's helplessness earned him a home. My strength earned me an eviction. I tried to reason I only needed 8 weeks, but her face hardened. "Don't be dramatic. You'll figure it out. You always do." Looking back, I understand her rush. I was getting too close, noticing too much. She needed me gone before I started really looking, and Christmas gave her the excuse. Christmas dinner was a performance. The table was full of aunts, uncles, cousins, and my mother narrated Jake's bright future. When conversation turned to me, she sighed. Megan's still finding herself. After dessert, my father disappeared into the den, his usual escape. My mother cornered me in the kitchen. "We think it's best if you go tonight," she said. "Tonight?" I asked to at least pack a bag. "Jake and Dana are coming early. Honestly, the longer you drag this out, the harder you make it. You can't keep leaning on us. You need to learn to do things on your own." She blocked me from my room, saying they'd send my things later. So I walked out with my purse, my coat in my hand, and nothing else. She stood in the warm doorway and delivered the full sentence I'll hear forever. "You can't do anything on your own, Megan. You're desperate." Then the lock turned. I sat in my car, engine running for heat, snow piling faster than the wipers could clear it. My hands shook, but I'm an ER nurse. When everything collapses, you triage. $60 cash, a quarter tank, a near-maxed credit card. I rifled through my wallet under the dome light and found the old card, and behind it a folded napkin I hadn't opened in 14 years. I didn't read it that night. I was too tired. I just held the card and thought, maybe there's enough for a motel. My mother had said Pop left nothing, and I'd believed her for 6 years. I wasn't expecting a miracle, just bus fare. I found a cheap motel, paid cash for one night, and lay awake deciding that first thing in the morning, I'd take that old card to the bank and see if my dead grandfather could buy me one more night indoors. That decision changed everything. The credit union was small, with one teller window. I slid the card across the counter. "It's really old. I just want to check the balance." The teller swiped, frowned, swiped again, then called her manager in the careful voice nurses use when they don't want to alarm a patient. The manager, a calm woman named Helen Croft, sat me at her desk. As she pulled up the account, I watched color drain from her face. She glanced at me, then back at the screen, then lowered her voice. "Miss, please sit down. You need to see this." My heart pounded. I braced for zero, the final humiliation of the worst week of my life. What Helen showed me was not empty. It was full of activity, years of it, and not one transaction was mine. The account Pop Ben opened in my name, the one my mother swore at his funeral didn't exist, was still open, and it had been used as a private piggy bank. Dozens of withdrawals and transfers flowed to an account belonging to Linda Foster, my mother. The balance was a fraction of what it should have been. I didn't scream, I asked questions. Who authorized these? Helen explained that an old power of attorney from my grandfather's affairs had been used, but after his death that authority ended. "Miss Foster, this account is in your name. You're the owner. These transactions, especially the recent ones, she didn't finish." The woman who called me helpless had been quietly standing on my money for years. "Stay with me, because what I did next didn't happen in a shouting match, it happened on paper, and the law doesn't care about family excuses." Helen was kind and precise. The account was solely mine. My mother had accessed it through an authority that died with Pop Ben. "We can print your full statement history," she said. "Identify every unauthorized transaction. You may want to file a fraud claim and consult an attorney. Some funds may be recoverable." While the printer ran, I let the ER nurse take over from the daughter. The daughter wanted to drive to my parents' house and put her fist through that door. The nurse made a list. Statements. Fraud. Lawyer. Documentation. Calm. Because the calm person in a crisis controls it. Back in the motel, I spread the statements across the bed and finally understood. It started with the funeral lie. There really wasn't anything left. As long as I believed that, I'd never check. And she could keep draining. A power of attorney dies the moment the person dies, every state. No exceptions. Every withdrawal after Pop Ben's death was unauthorized. Taken from an account that wasn't even his, but mine. I circled those dates and stacked the pages. Then I reached into my wallet for the one piece of evidence I hadn't yet read. I unfolded the napkin. The paper was soft and yellow, the folds nearly worn through, but his handwriting was still there. "For when you have to stand on your own. This is yours, Megan, nobody else's." Don't tell your mother because she'll spend it. And she'll have a good reason every time. Some people love you and steal from you in the same breath. Protect yourself. Love, Grandpa Ben. I read it 3 times. The 3rd time my hands were steady. He'd warned me at 18. And I had never believed my own mother was the warning. That note wasn't just heartbreak. It was evidence of intent, proof the account was meant for me alone, and that she was explicitly excluded. Pop Ben, 6 years dead, had handed me the cornerstone of my case. I didn't win a lottery. That screen showed me a robbery, and everything I did next was clawing back what was already legally mine. I didn't want my parents' retirement or Jake's truck. I just wanted back what had been taken, and I wanted the people who stole it to stop pretending I was helpless. But I couldn't win with a screaming match. My mother would talk her way out of that. I needed to move the fight onto ground where speeches don't count, only documents. That night, I made an ER triage plan. Statements, lawyer, formal fraud claim. I hired Tom Avery, an estate attorney who listened without interrupting. Miss Foster, the account is solely yours. Your grandfather's power of attorney terminated automatically the instant he died. Every transfer after that was unauthorized. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's conversion. Possibly criminal. You have strong grounds to demand repayment. And the credit union may reverse some directly. He tapped the napkin, now in plastic. This is unusually helpful. It establishes intent and excludes your mother. Juries and banks like intent. For the first time since the porch, I felt solid ground. I told him I didn't want to destroy my family. I wanted my money back and would give them a chance to make it right before it turned criminal. Tom drafted a formal demand letter with full accounting, dates, and the legal reality in black and white. The credit union's fraud department moved fast. Within days, my mother got a call from the bank instead of from me, and the texts began. First ice. I don't know what you've started, but stop it immediately. Then cracks. Whatever you think you saw, it's not what it looks like. We need to talk before you regret this. I stayed silent. An innocent woman says, check whatever you want. My mother said, stop, don't. You'll regret this. Those are the words of someone caught. I screenshot every message and sent them to Tom. Jake found me in the hospital parking lot, angry and scared. What are you doing to Mom? You're trying to send her to jail over money. I leaned against my car, still in scrubs. Jake, do you know where the money for your truck came from? Your apartment deposit? The debts that vanished? He opened his mouth and shut it. In that pause, I saw he either knew or had chosen not to know. Mom said it was family money, he finally said. Weaker. I told him the account was in my name only, and our grandpa had left a note specifically to keep it from her because she'd spend it and she spent it on you. Jake isn't cruel, just so used to being the favorite he never asked what it cost. I didn't know, he whispered. I didn't ask. I said, that's the whole problem with being the protected one. You never have to ask where it comes from. He stood in the cold looking younger than his years, and for the first time I felt sorry for him. He'd been bought with my money and never even knew the price. When guilt came, my mother's voice was soft and wounded. Megan, sweetheart, are you really going to send your own mother to prison over money your grandfather basically meant for the family? I let silence stretch. Grandpa didn't mean it for the family, Mom. He put it in my name and left a note about you specifically. A sharp intake of breath she hadn't known. I don't want you in prison. I want my money back. You have a chance to make this right. That's more of a chance than you gave me. Her mask slipped. After everything, you're choosing money over your family? I almost laughed. No, Mom. You did that 6 years ago. I'm just the one who finally noticed. I hung up gently while she was still talking. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of her. You stop being afraid the day you see the whole trick. While she swung between tears and threats, the beautiful, boring machinery of the law kept turning. The credit union reversed the clearest fraudulent transfers. Tom's demand letter, sent certified mail, laid out the total she owed to the dollar. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just statements, letters, and a fraud analyst named Dave, who called twice to confirm details. That's how you win against someone like my mother. Not with a better speech, she'll always have a better speech. You move the fight to where only documents and law count, and on that ground I held every card. Cornered, she called a family dinner to settle things as a family. My father phoned the night before. Voice, rough. He's a quiet, conflict-shy man. But that night he confessed. He'd known she was taking the money. Told himself it was borrowing. Said nothing at the funeral because speaking would have meant a fight. I let her put you out in the snow. I'm so ashamed. I believed him. And it hurt worse than my mother's threats, the cowardice of a man who loved me but still wouldn't move. I thanked him for telling me. But I said I wasn't stopping. The money was mine. And I was getting it back. The dinner was set for the first Sunday of the new year. My mother stacked the room with aunts, uncles, cousins, the same audience that watched her narrate me down at Christmas. She wanted me outnumbered, facing a jury already bribed with her story. The old me would have folded. I brought a folder instead. Inside, key statements, a timeline, a legal summary, and a copy of Pop Ben's napkin. I walked up those porch steps, past the door that had been locked against me, and into her ambush. The living room was already arranged against me. My mother began before I sat down, voice trembling with rehearsed hurt. Thank you all for coming. Megan needs to hear from the whole family. She's decided, over some misunderstanding, to accuse me of stealing. She's gone to lawyers, to the bank, trying to have me charged. We took her in, gave her a place to stay, and this is how she repays us. I always said it, that girl is desperate. She can't do anything on her own. The old Polrose shrink, apologize, disappear. The room leaned into her story. Then, I felt the envelope in my hand. I had carried that warning 14 years without reading it. I was done being the only one who didn't get to finish a sentence. Can I show everyone something? I laid pages on the coffee table one at a time. This is a bank statement for an account my grandfather opened in my name when I was 18. Only my name. These are withdrawals, dozens over years, all going to my mother's account. I never authorized a single one. Aunts leaned in despite themselves. Mom told me at Grandpa's funeral that he left nothing, so I'd never look. I set down the timeline and pointed. This is the day Grandpa died. A power of attorney ends at death every state. Every transfer after this date was unauthorized. My lawyer calls it conversion. The bank calls it fraud. They've already started reversing it. The room went quiet. My mother's face cracked. Then I laid down the napkin copy and read aloud steadily. For when you have to stand on your own. This is yours, Megan. Nobody else's. Don't tell your mother because she'll spend it. Some people love you and steal from you in the same breath. Protect yourself. I looked up. He knew. 6 years before any of this, my own grandfather knew exactly what she would do. My mother shot off the couch, screaming. That money was for this family. After everything I did, you'd humiliate me in my own home. She was shaking, composure gone, and the whole room stared at her. Because a wronged woman doesn't scream like that, a caught one does. I stayed in my chair. Grandpa knew you'd say that, Mom. He wrote it on a napkin when I was 18. Nobody moved. Then my Uncle Ray, her own brother, picked up the timeline and statement, read slowly, and set them down. She's not the one who couldn't take care of herself, he said. The word desperate drifted across the room and landed on the person it actually fit. Jake made a weak protest, then saw a transfer date he recognized, the month of his truck, and stopped. My mother looked around for her audience and found it gone. She turned to me one last time. You can't do this. You can't do anything on your own. I stood. I did all of this on my own. Mom including catching you. My father put his face in his hands. Nobody in that room ever called me desperate again. Before leaving, I told them plainly what would happen. The bank was reversing what it could. Tom's letter outlined the rest and a repayment plan. If she signed, I wouldn't seek an arrest. I wanted what was mine, not her in prison. But I wasn't dropping the claim to keep peace. I won't be the strong one you lean on while you call me the weak one. That's over. No heat in my voice, which made it land harder. Then I walked out, the first to leave, which I'd never been, past the locked door, to the motel that had become more home than that house ever was. I felt, for the first time in years, completely my own. Like and subscribe to Tranquil Drama Stories, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Months later, The credit union had reversed all qualifying transactions. My mother signed the repayment agreement people who count on never getting caught fold fast. Most of what was mine came home. Labeled correctly. Recovered, not given. I moved into my apartment in February and furnished it slowly with my own paychecks. There's a particular peace in a home nobody can lock you out of. Jake called to say he was sorry he'd never asked where things came from. He's pulling back, finding his own footing. My father helps move furniture sometimes, and we don't say much his own kind of apology. My mother and I don't speak. She's never apologized in a way that wasn't about herself. And I've stopped waiting. I keep Pop Ben's napkin in a frame on my kitchen wall, for when you have to stand on your own. Some mornings I read it with my coffee. The money mattered, but the real gift was that one person saw exactly who I was and exactly who she was, and trusted me to figure it out. I figured it out a little late, but I did it on my own. If someone in your life keeps insisting you're helpless, ask yourself what they hope you'll never look at. Sometimes standing on your own just means finally checking the balance.